Returning to our studies on the modes of the major scale, I'd like to, in this session, fill in the blanks and learn about the 3 remaining modes of the major scale. We'll be hitting the ground running today, but I'm sure that you're more than capable, so let's make a start. As with all the modes we've looked at so far, we'll be continuing to develop our learning within the key of C major. Okay, so far we've looked at C Ionian, or the first mode, D Dorian, which is the second mode, G Mixolydian, which is the 5th mode, and A Aeolian, or the natural minor scale, which is the 6th mode and relative minor. First, let's look at the 3rd mode of the major scale, which in the key of C major starts on an E. So, starting from an E and only using notes from the C major scale, the order of notes in the 3rd mode are as follows: E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and back to E. Now, with all modes, this 3rd mode also has a Greek name, and in the world of modal theory is called Phrygian. So, adding to our knowledge, the 3rd mode of any major scale is the Phrygian mode. And as we're in the key of C major here, the 3rd mode of the C major scale is E Phrygian. Here's the notation and fingering for E Phrygian on the fingerboard. Let's try playing this along with the metronome. We'll be playing up and down this new mode twice. Okay, ready? After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you can hear that due to the semitone interval between the first 2 notes, in this case the E and F, the Phrygian mode possesses a very distinct Spanish sound and character. So staying with the character of this mode, let's have a look at the chord tones and the type of chord they create. As always, taking the 1st, 3rd, 5th and 7th notes, or the chord tones, we can construct the type of chord associated with this mode. In this case, the chord tones are E, G, B, and D. If we look at the positions of these notes on the fingerboard, we can easily work out the intervals. E to a G is a minor 3rd, so we're looking at a minor chord here. The E to the B is a perfect 5th, so playing these 3 notes together would create a minor triad, or a minor chord. And finally, the E to the D is the interval of a minor 7th, so playing all 4 of these notes together would create a minor 7th chord, and as the root note is an E, we've simply created an E minor 7th chord. So, let's try skipping in thirds through the Phrygian mode. But this time we're going to play along to an E minor 7th chord. This way you'll be able to hear the mode clearly spell out a distinctly minor sound, but this time with a slightly different character. Okay, here's the notation, and as you can see, we'll be skipping in thirds up and down through E Phrygian twice. Okay. After 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, So there's an introduction into the Phrygian mode, which, remember, is the third mode of the major scale. So, moving on, let's now take a look at the fourth mode, which is called Lydian. So starting on the 8th fret of the A string, which is the note of F, let's create the Lydian mode. Here's the mode of F Lydian written out as notation. And if you look at the tab, you'll notice that it's very similar to the Ionian mode or major scale. An easy way to think of Lydian is just to treat it as a major scale with a sharpened or raised fourth. So with that in mind, from our F, just play a major scale. And instead of playing a natural fourth, sharpen it by moving the note up by 1 fret like this. Okay, let's play F Lydian, which remember is the fourth mode of the C major scale, up and down twice with the metronome. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Extracting the chord tones from this mode and playing them in sequence. Hopefully you can recognise this as a major 7th arpeggio. And as it happens, a major 7th is the type of chord associated with the Lydian mode. As we're dealing with F Lydian here, let's skip in thirds through this mode. But once again, we're going to do this with the chord of F major 7th in the background. As you play through this exercise, notice how the raising of the fourth note gives Lydian a sound and character all of its own when played against its corresponding chord. I like to think of the sound of Lydian as the start of a very popular cartoon theme tune, but I'll leave you to work out which one. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, lastly, let's complete the group by looking at the 7th mode of the major scale, something called the Locrian mode. So, as we're in the key of C major, constructing the 7th mode is easy. We just start on the 7th note, which is a B, and using only the notes from the C major scale, the order of notes to construct B Locrian are as follows: B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and back to B. Here's the scale written down in notation, and I'd like us to play starting on the 7th fret of the E string here. Okay, let's play this new mode of B Locrian up and down twice with the metronome. So, after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how this mode sounds much darker and somewhat sinister compared with the others we've encountered so far, and this is due to the position of the semitone intervals within the sequence. With this in mind, let's take a look at these intervals, the chord tones, and why the mode of Locrian feels the way it does. From this mode of B Locrian, the chord tones are B, D, F and A. And from these we can construct the type of chord associated with this mode. Okay, looking at the intervals from the root up, the interval between the B and D is quite obviously a minor third. So this tells us we're dealing with a minor chord. Skipping an interval and looking at the B and the A, we can quite clearly see that this is the interval of a minor or flattened seventh. So far we're looking at a familiar minor seventh type chord. However, the interval between the chord tones of B and F is where we encounter something different from all of the chords we've seen so far. And it's this interval that's behind Locrian's sinister character and mood. And this interval, as we've already learnt from our studies on the 251, is that of a tritone, or a flattened fifth, the devil in music. So piecing all of these chord tones together, the type of chord that a Locrian mode creates is a minor seventh with a flattened fifth. Now, it's worth remembering that this type of chord is commonly known as a minor 7 flat 5, although it can also be referred to as a half diminished chord. As we've built it from the root note of B, we'd quite simply name this chord as B minor 7 flat 5, or B half diminished. And as always, this type of chord can be written down in a number of different ways. Okay, to better hear this association of the Locrian mode with a minor 7 flat 5 chord, let's try skipping in thirds through this mode, and as before, we'll play along to a chord of B minor 7 flat 5 to really hear the mode's character. Okay, here's the notation. And after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to finish with, let's run an arpeggio of our B minor 7 flat 5 chord. Here's the notation for this last exercise. And just take note of the shape that this particular arpeggio creates on the instrument. And as the chord says, just take a minor 7th chord and flatten the 5th. Okay, so after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, now there's no doubting that we've covered a lot in this session, but as always, work on everything bit by bit to reinforce any new knowledge. To help you practice each of these new and very colourful modes of the major scale, you'll find some loops of an E minor 7th groove for you to practice E Phrygian, an F major 7th groove for F Lydian, and a B minor 7 flat 5 groove for you to work on B Locrian with. Try creating some bass lines and grooves using these new modes. Revisit the exercises or just have a go at improvising using these new musical colours. In the next session, we'll be developing some technical exercises to help develop both hands using all 7 modes of the major scale. So, in the meantime, I suggest practicing hard and going over everything we've learned today. Good luck, and I'll see you there. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four.